examples and all the documentation about event binding and all. What the new concept you have learned here is generally in order to deal with event binding, React uses all JavaScript events, all are same, no change. Only the point is if event have to use generally event have to use a particular binding technique to use the state. You have to make sure that the events are binded with the state in order to handle the functionalities. I will show one more simple example here, how we can handle and how we can deal with that. So all the events are same. All your mouse events, key events, miscellaneous events, all are same like you have learned in your JavaScript and jQuery. So whatever you used, the same. Only the difference is the approach how you mention. I will show one more example here. Let's say I will add a new file here, change event .js. Yeah, change event.js. Okay. And in that, we will import the React related components here. We will configure them. So here I am just defining, because already index is using all the library. So here I am just defining a class. So let's create a class, and the class is change demo, change component, and it extends. So react.component. Okay. So it extends the React component, react.component. Now here we are configuring some constructor. So with the state, this dot state, and we are declaring a simple MSG, message is empty. Now I want to render and return. So return some functionality. Just I will create a simple div, and here I will put a select. In the select, we are adding a simple label, and let's keep that as select city. Select your city, and here we are defining options. So we have an option. So this is some Delhi, and another option some Hyderabad. Now I want to write the change event for this drop down, so that I can identify which city they selected and get that name. How to write the change event, how do we configure the events, all concepts are same. Let's see here. So we need to render this. So React DOM. So React DOM dot render. It should render that element called change component, and document get element by ID into the root. Okay. We will link this in our index page. Change event.js. Okay. Let's run this initially and see. So we have a drop down. Now when user changes the drop down, when user selects the city here. So here I will keep a heading, change event. I will just keep a heading here as change demo. Okay, you can see the change demo. When user selects a city, I want to capture that city name. When user selects a city, I want to capture the city name. And I need to store and display somewhere below in the heading. I will keep a heading. Here I want to display. So you selected and the city name. That city name we should set that into that state and display that in the state. Now we need to write a change event for dropdown. So then how do we write the event? Event is written like a method like handle change. You can give any name, handle change. This handle change should use the state of our class. In that case, in the constructor, we have to register that event. This dot handle change is equal to this dot handle change dot bind and this. In the last session, I showed you all the 4 techniques of binding, how the events are binded with the class. In the previous session, we discussed that. So we learned about how to handle the changes, how do we configure the changes, and binding we have learned. It's mandatory that we have to bind the event. Okay. Now what it should do is, it must get the value from the drop down, and it should access the value and use the value. That means now this drop down have to use that handle change event. So then we have to write for the drop down. So on change. So already we know that the events are written in a camel case here, and it should access this dot handle change. And into that we need to pass the event. We need to collect event argument. So let's go to the handle change and we will put an event argument. Through event argument, we can access the value selected inside this drop down, and we can set into the state. That means here we will use this dot set state, and into the state we will put the message coming from e dot target dot value. That means whatever the value coming from the drop down, it is collected here and it is assigned to MSG. Now I will keep this here. You selected whatever the value present in MSG. We will display that here. Initially you can see now. So it should get that and display that. But here one general issue what it comes here is inspect here in the console. You have a problem here. And the problem is the change component. So it is having a problem here. Message not defined. MSG is not defined. That means it is unable to use that particular state object and configure the state object. It is unable to use the state object. Of course, it can use the state object. It can define the state object. So we have to configure the state object. And by default, actually why it is coming, because by default it is trying to render this MSG, but this MSG is not directly available. It is present this dot state dot MSG. So you have to get from the state and display. So initially it will be like this, empty, nothing is there. And when user selects, so when user selects the city, that city name will come here. And it will display the city name here. On drop down change, we are handling that function. So any event you can configure in this way. All the JavaScript events that you have learned, you can use them here. Only the point is you have to understand the approach. First, how to write the event, how to point towards the event, how to access the state and use it. Remember, every event that is using the state must be configured to bind with this class. Otherwise, you cannot use those events. You cannot use those events. Every event which is using state must use it. If your event is not using state, then it's okay. You can, you don't need to define it. But if it is using state, you should bind with this. Last session we saw, I told you 4 methods of binding. In various ways we can bind it and we can configure. So this is how we define the events, how you configure the events for defining the events and configuring in React. Now what extra you will learn in React is already all events you know, key up, key down, event arguments also you know, how to get the event arguments and use them you know. Now extra in React.js, you can start using the touch events. You can start using the touch events because when you are developing application for touch screens, when you are developing application for mobile-like devices, then we want several interactions to happen on touch that you manage by using touch events. So React Extra, you will see how to deal with this touch event. Actually, touch event specifies the interactions that support touch. That means remember to practice this, you need a device that supports touch, Then you can handle this. For that actually, React have options like on touch start. We have option like on touch move. We have option like on touch end. So these are very much required and very much used. On touch start, on touch move, and on touch end. Generally, every touch event, these are touch events. Every touch event comprises of 3 important properties. Related to touch, we have 3 properties, like we have touches. Touches is one property, target touches is another property, and changed touches is another property. Generally, touch events will use these 3 properties. I will show one simple example how to use these properties and how do we define these properties. One small example I will show here, and we will see how we can handle the touch events, how we can define the touch events and use the touch event. So let's create one simple example for that. So I will create another file. In SRC, I will create a new file. So touchdemo.js. Okay, so here let's create a class touchdemo component, and that extends. So React dot component. Okay, and here we need to configure and return. So it should return some presentation. I will keep this class as container, class name as container fluid. Okay, and keep heading here as touch demo. Okay, and here we have images. Some img src is equal to some shoe.jpg, and the image is having width as some 200 and height also as 200. Like this we are configuring. Now similarly, I have another image source, and here I am defining, so that is some shoe1.jpg. So, and width is 200 and height also 200. So okay, and these two I will keep, these 2 images I will keep in a div. Those 2 images I will keep in a div. Okay, in a div we are configuring those 2 images. Fine. Now here the point is, when user is trying to handle the images. So let's render this output and return that in the page. So React DOM dot render and it should render. So touch demo component, right? So it has to render that touch demo component. Touch demo component, okay, and into document.get element by id and into the root. So it needs to configure that, and we will add this touch demo into our index page. We will add the touch demo into our index page. So let's go to the index page and let's configure the touch demo.js. So touch demo.js. Okay. Now let's run this and see. And you can see by default. So touch demo.js. So we have two images there. Right. Now we need to write a touch event to understand and to configure the presentation correctly here. So suppose touch related positions and configurations, how to access them. You cannot practice this with mouse click. For that you have mouse over, mouse out like options. Touch will work only on the laptops and in the mobile like devices if you use them, right? Otherwise you cannot handle it. So let's create the page. And the images, we are having those images inside. Yeah, we have shoe and shoe one images available there. Yeah, those two images are present. Actually, we kept them in separate images folder. So we will configure the path for them here as the path as images slash shoe one. Okay. So we have those two images. Now important is when user touches that image, I want to know the details about the image. When user touch the image, I need to display the details of that particular image. I want touch sensitive now. I want to use the touch sensitive, touch related options, not mouse touch. So that means how you write this and how you handle this. Usually what we have to do is first we need to get the ID. We can get the ID of the element. Every element can have an ID. So you can configure the ID of the element, which one you touch. You can get the positions, x-axis, y-axis position. So for example, suppose, so you can get the value and name. Suppose this image is having ID is Nike and this is having an ID as Lee, like this. So we are configuring the ID, we are defining the ID, and we need to get this ID. Actually, we can get the position, we need to get this ID. We need to get the ID when user touches that. That means now this div have to use, the div have to use an event. And on that event, we need to collect the ID. So what we will do is, we will create a simple constructor. So constructor, and we will create this dot state is equal to, initially this dot state contains just message. I will keep just message empty. Okay. Now I need to write touch event. For touch event, a functionality. That means we will write here handle touch. Handle touch. So and this handle touch is should fire up when user touches the images inside the div. Then what we will do is the div, for the div we will write an event called on touch start. On touch start, it should point and access that this dot handle touch. Handle touch. So this is the new event that you have learned here. So which is very important, especially while working with smart devices, developing application for smart devices. We need that. On touch start, that means when you touch, what should happen? On touch start, what should happen is handle touch will fire up. So what we need to do is we need to register that handle touch to use the state. This dot handle touch is equal to this dot handle touch dot bind and this bind this. And here we need to get the ID of the shoe they have touched. Then how you can access that? Generally, touch events have an event argument. Generally, touch event arguments. So we can access, for example, temporarily, I am showing an alert here. In the alert E dot, we have touches. Touches is a property which gets all the details about the element that you have touched. Touches property, touches, so is having the index number. That means you can use 0 and all. For example, if you want to know what properties are present for touch event, observe carefully. So for example, I will write like this, document, we will write a for loop for where property in E. For where property in V, document dot write, we will print the property. What properties are present for touch event? Because this is first time we are learning about touch event. Generally mouse event we know, client X, client Y, key events we know, key we have key code, character code, but touch events, what properties? I am writing a simple logic to get all the properties of touch event. You see, when I touch on that, it has to get all that. Remember, I move the mouse onto it and click with mouse on it. It's not working. Mouse is not working. This is my touch screen. On that particular object, I will touch with my hand. It will show that. And observe carefully. Touch event is having a property called touches. Directly observe carefully. Directly value and name are not available. Value and name are not available. Touches is there. We will see what is present in that touches. So I will give E dot touches. E dot touches will get all the touches related properties. Let's try that and see now. Now when I touch any, it will get that E related details and all. You see 0 and you see length and you have item. I want to know what is present at 0. That means I have to define property of 0. At 0, what is present? What details are present at 0? We want to get that. That means you see it is returning 3 details, 0, length and item. That means E dot touches contains 0. What is present in 0? That means I have to use E dot touches of 0. Touches of 0, what is present at 0? If you want to know that, when I touch it, so it will get all these details. You see it is getting identifier. So target, screen X, screen Y, client X, client Y. That means where you touched X-axis position, Y-axis position. It is having target. If you want to know what is present inside the target, actually target. So we have target, right? Target related properties. So when you are trying to access the target related properties, you see target has so many properties. In that target properties, you will have name, you will have name. In the target properties, you will have like ID, you will have ID. So you will have name, so name, and you have ID. You can see there is an ID. ID is there. So there is an ID. You can access the ID. So by observing all this concept, what you understood is to get the ID of any particular element on touch, we have to use a lengthy hierarchy. This is the hierarchy we have to use. That means what we have to do now, we have to write like this. I will just print here document dot get element by ID. Sorry, or simply first we will write document dot write. What to write? E dot, we have touches of 0 dot target dot ID. We will access the ID of the target element that they have touched. We are accessing the target element of the ID that they have touched. And you see now here, I touch Lee, and I touch on Nike. It will get Nike. And if you can get the ID what they touched, now you can filter and display the details that are matching your condition. You can display and filter the details that are matching your condition. That means how you can get that information and display. For example, see what I am doing now is I need to verify what they have selected and configure what they have selected. So here state is having just a message. I will just display the message like I am writing like this. How do we display the message? So we will write a simple switch case into the switch case. And here we are passing E dot touches of 0 dot target dot ID. And we will write a condition case. If case is Lee, then we have to access this dot set state. So, and in that MSG must be. So we need to display that you selected that Lee Cooper boot message, right? You selected Lee Cooper boot. This message will display. And break, not break here. So that is an object. So directly we have to set value into that by using set state. By using set state, we need to set that here. So set state, we need to set the value. Then break. Similarly, suppose, so you selected, right? Similarly, we have the case as some Nike. If the case is Nike, this dot set state, it should set the message you selected. So Nike casuals, that should display and break. We have to define like this. Now this message must be displayed somewhere below. That means what I will do here is I will keep a heading, and here we will keep this dot state dot MSG. You can see that now it is empty. When I touch Lee Cooper, it says you selected Lee Cooper boot. And I touch so this Nike casuals, it says you selected Nike casuals. Remember, with the mouse I am clicking, it is not working on mouse click. With the mouse when you are trying, it is not working with mouse click because these are touch events. Touch events will fire up only when you touch on that. I am touching on that. It can access that and it can handle. That looks good. That looks better. So that means now you designed a screen which is more good for smart devices. On touch, you can handle it. You can do a lot of interactions with the touch. We can do a lot of interactions with the touch. Currently, we have used touch start. We can change its positions. We can handle the position. We can move it. We can handle in various situations. That means, for example, I will show another option. That means how do we deal with the touch events? Another option I will show you. For example, that means, so currently we have written touch start. We can write touch move. You can write touch move because touch events, we are having different events. Touch move, touch end, touch start. Currently we are configuring only touch start. On touch start it is doing it. We can write on touch move, so touch end. So depending on the requirement, for example, let's create another example, touch move, how we can handle touch move. Suppose here I will open the images location here, images location, and in our images, suppose React project. So here, suppose I am having the application. So means some image, we need some here images. Yeah, there is a ball image. I will copy that and I will paste it here. So we have some ball and that ball is some PNG file. Okay. Now see here, I am copying that ball PNG file into this. Let's write another one. So another file. So ball touch.js. Okay. Let's create a simple program for handling this. That means I am creating as class as ball component that extends so react dot component and here render and return. So return, so a simple here we will keep an image here. So we will just keep an image here. So in a div we will keep an image img. So and style, so I will use here src. src is equal to images slash ball.png. We are using a ball image here, configuring the ball image, and height is equal to 50 and width also equal to 50. Height and width update for that. And I will use this ball component to render. So that is just a ball component defined. And react dot render, and we need to render that ball component. So into document get element by id root. Okay, let's use this ball touch here in the JS, ball touch in the JS, and you see there is a small ball. Now important is I want this ball to move. I want this ball to move along with the movement of touch movement. That means I must able to drag and drop wherever I want. I want to drag and drop that ball wherever I want. Then what I am doing here through touch, not with mouse. Mouse, it should not work. Only touch it should work. So how you can configure that? So generally we have simply, so first we are creating a constructor here, this dot state. In the state object, we are declaring a style object. In the last session, we discussed about how to apply the styles dynamically. You can apply the styles, inline styles, embedded styles. In the style object, so we defined position as fixed is the position. Okay, and the top is initially empty, and left is also initially empty. Now we have to write a touch event. then we are writing, so handle touch. So, and this should be registered. So this dot handle touch is equal to this dot handle touch dot bind with this. We are configuring that handle touch and it is defining. Okay. Now when touch is moving, that means this should fire up when you are moving. That means on this div, I am defining, on this div I am configuring as on touch move. On touch move is equal to, it should bind with this dot handle touch. Now what should happen is, I need to set a position. I need to set a position for this. That means, so this dot handle touch, this dot set state. It should set style object position. Style object with a new position it has to set. That means actually position will be fixed only. Position will be fixed. But left position and right position, left position and top position will come from the X and Y axis of touch. Will come from X and Y axis of touch. So we have to collect that through event argument. Now touch event argument, left E dot touches of 0 dot client X plus pixel px. That's how we need to define. Similarly, E dot touches of 0 dot client Y, top position is client Y, just like mouse event we have used. Now this style object must be applied to that image. That means image have to use style. And the style is coming from style object. This dot state dot style object. So that means now what happens here? We are writing touch move. That means now when I move the mouse and drag, it's not working for mouse dragging. Now when I move the mouse hand and drag, it should work. It is able to drag that location. That means you are changing the position here. So client spelling Y spelling wrong. So client Y. So you are defining. Now you can see that. Now once it refresh, I can drag and keep any location I want. That means remember, this time the ball is working based on drag. That means based on touch, not mouse. With the mouse pointer, I try to drag, it is not working now. It will work only with the touch event. It's not working with the drag. That means I will touch and drag, it is working. So that means it is working with the touch event. We can create a lot of interactions with the touch. We can create, like generally when people are using mobile, we can set like zoom. So we can set like zoom. With the touch, they can zoom that image. With the touch, they can reduce the size. I am increasing and decreasing with the touch zooming. And with the touch, I am changing the position. You can manage all this. with the touch. So with the touch, you can handle that. So this is one special option in React. We can handle the touch events, configure the touch events. All other JavaScript events are same, nothing special. But here the touch events are additional. And what is the specialty about touch events is you can handle interactions on touch start, on touch end, and you can manage by using the touch. So that is generally how we configure and dealing with the events. And one more regularly used event generally you have to know and you have to use is, so that is submit event. On submit, already you know that, but one more time we need to remember that, because generally submit event is used, usually submit event is used for form. Submit event is used for form element. That means it is used to collect the form data and submit the form data. we can get every element related value and we can use every element related value. But remember, we cannot use that. We cannot use that for button. So this will work for form element. That means submit event can work for the form event. So if you are having a form, for the form event, that submit will work. Already we know generally how to handle the submit. So only the point here is how we define in React. That means just we need to configure that on form. We have to write on submit, form on submit. So it will handle submit functionality. That means this dot submit click. On submit click, so when the form is submitted, usually form is submitted by using a submit button. You need a submit button here. So this submit button is going to submit the page. So it is going to submit the page. Now on submit, we want to collect the values of all the elements inside. Then what you can do is we can write a simple function here. So that means we can simply function as submit click. This submit click function will collect E. Through the E, you can access E dot target dot value. That means it is going to access, so element related value. Every element related value. That means every element related value you can access by using E dot target. E dot target will return the elements. And every element related value you can access by using dot value. So everything is same, only the difference is this will fire up when you click the submit button and configure the submit button. For example, just a basic point I will show here. So suppose a file here. So submit demo.js, and here I am configuring the submit event. That means class submit demo. So submit demo, and it uses extends React dot component, and here render and return. So return. So some div. And inside this, I'm just configuring some details. Suppose I have some data term name and the data definition. We have input type is equal to text. So that is the text box we have defined. And this text box is having a name called name. So it is having a name called name. Suppose I am accessing another data term. So another data term I am configuring and say mobile. And so here we have data definition. Input type is equal to text. And for example, I will keep this as price, name and price. And here the name is price. So we are accessing the price. I want to access these details on submit. Then usually this entire data is enclosed. This entire data list is enclosed inside a form. On form submit, I want to handle that. That means form usually have a button. So usually have a button. That button is submit button. That means on submit, we need to collect all the data submitted. So now I will use React DOM dot render, and it should render. So submit demo, and into document get element by ID root. Now you can see that it is going to submit the details. Now we can collect and store in some other location, and we have to write a submit click. So we are writing an event here. So the event is submit click. So submit click. This submit click will use an event argument, and this submit click should fire up when user submits the form. For form, we have to write on submit. On submit is equal to this dot submit click. And on submit, I want to collect all the elements. So and their names, element names or element values Actually, I am using a simple for where element of e dot target. E dot target, it will return all the elements inside the form, and I will print document dot write element dot value. We are printing that element value and br line break. That's what we are configuring just roughly. And usually now I will use this submit click.js in the startup, submit demo.js, and you have these details defined. So I will use that container fluid, okay, and the class container fluid, class name as container fluid, okay. And this is the registration form we are having, and some data list and data definition, some change. On the submit click, some margins are affected here. So let's check in the presentation. We have registered product. So the registered product touches some change. So where it is gone? The class name container fluid. Submit demo. So margins are affected. So let's go to the HTML file. Here. So where it is gone? Some margin affected here. So where the margin affected CSS file is there. Class, yes. Data term, data definition. We'll use an empty container. Yeah. Is any another submit demo component is there? Hope some CSS is working there. Already container fluid is there. Some problem. I will keep here some data list. There somewhere problem is in the presentation. Where it happened. Acha, fine. Okay, fine. I'm entering the details, some name and some price. Now on submit, we need to get all the details and display the details, and you can see that it is going to get all the details and display the details. So whatever the details you enter. That means on submit, we are collecting the form and presenting the form. And how you are configuring and presenting the form on submit. So here we are using submit click. On submit click, this event will provide a target. The target will collect, so every element present inside the form, and its value you can access and we can use it. That means actually target is a collection of elements present inside the form. That means these are all the elements, text box, and another text box, price. These are all the elements present inside. They are all the elements present inside the form, which you can collect by using target. And that element related value will return all the values. That means with one attempt, we can access all the details from the form and we can display, right? Usually, this is general approach of configuring the submit event. How we can collect all the details and handle by using submit. I can write like this also. That means e dot target of 0 dot it will get value of first element. First element means it will get the value of this text box. So instead of that, we are writing a simple iterator to read all the values and presenting all the values. Now, the best way to design the forms and to create and interact with the forms, we have to learn how to design React forms. That means React forms, the validation with React forms. For that, it uses an additional library. We need an extra library. And we have an additional library which is used for designing and interacting with the forms. And those libraries we will see. So by using those libraries, we can design the forms and form related validations, how to deal with them. So now you have seen the events in React. All the events are same like JavaScript events, only the approach is different. We need to learn a different approach for registering the events and configuring. Now, after understanding that, now we will see how to create React forms, and we will learn how to interact with server-side API. In React, how to create an end-to-end application interacting with API and the forms. That we will see in our next session, right? Tomorrow is important because in tomorrow's session, we will learn integration with server-side technology and create a form that can interact with server-side technology. Just like we done in Angular, we will do in React also. That means an end-to-end application in React that we will see in your tomorrow session. Okay. Right.